الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. ما بعد، إن خير الحديث فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، خير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، كل محدثة بدعة، كل بدعة ضلالة، كل ضلالة في النار. Tonight, inshallah, we will talk about the next two sections. And those two sections, there is no big difference amongst the scholars. So inshallah, we'll be able to finish them today. And then after that, we'll start talking about al-rida', and that is the breastfeeding. And فصل قال المؤلف رحمه الله: فصل في الوطء بملك اليمين، ويجوز أن يملك أختين وله وطء إحداهما، فمتى وطأها حرمت عليه أختها حتى تحرم الموطوءة بتزويج أو إخراج عن ملكه ويعلم أنها غير حامل. فإذا وطأ الثانية ثم عادت الثانية إلى ملكه لم تحل له حتى تحرم الأخرى وعمة الأمة وخالتها في هذا كأختها. This is a section that is talking about to having intercourse with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls mulk al-yamin, or what your right hand possesses. What your right hand possesses, that is slave women, and we'll talk more about that. But for the Muslim man, he's permitted to have intercourse with his wives as well as with his slave women, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah, إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُم. And this section is still talking about that part of muharramat, what is forbidden to get married to or to have intercourse with. يقول المؤلف: فصل في الوطء بملك اليمين. As I said, a person, a man, a Muslim man, is permitted to have sexual intercourse with his wife as well as with what his right hand possesses, and that is the slave woman. And here when he talks about that, as we spoke before, marrying a woman or having a woman and her sister is haram. To be married to a woman and her sister, we already established that. And the same thing is applied. That's when they are free, when these are free women. The same thing applies to slave women. So if it happened that one person has or possesses two women and they are sisters, and he bought two women and they're sisters, that is permissible to buy, to own. And the aqd, this is aqd. When he goes and he buys a slave woman, that is aqd, a contract. And he is permitted to have two women. But when we talk about the free women, he is not permitted to marry two women. And that is aqd too, aqd al-nikah. Okay? The contract of marriage, he's not allowed to marry two sisters. Here he's allowed to own two women, two sisters, as slaves. But what he's forbidden to do is to have intercourse with both of them. With both of them. So as the Shara and Allah allows him to have intercourse with his slave women, if he has two sisters under his possession, he has to choose. If he wants to sleep with one, he cannot sleep with the other. Okay? It's very clear. Unless something happens and some conditions have to be met for him to be able to sleep. Now I'm mentioning this just because they mention it. As we already talked, slavery perhaps had disappeared from this, يعني in this time. فيقول وله وطء إحداهما ما شاء. He has the right to sleep with one of them as he wills, but with one of them. If they are two sisters, with one of them. So if he sleeps with, let's say he has two sisters as slave women, he has A and B as sisters, then if he decides to sleep with A, he cannot sleep with B anymore. Unless certain things happen, as we will see. So if two sisters, he wants to sleep with the older, he cannot sleep with the younger. If he wants to sleep with the younger, he cannot sleep with the... Whatever the choice he makes affects his choice when it comes to the other sister. يقول المؤلف فمتى وطأها حرمت عليه أختها حتى تحرم الموطوءة. So once he sleeps with A, you're gonna call him A and B, no names. Once he sleeps with A, he is not allowed to sleep with B. And B becomes haram. Unless, okay, when we talked about previously that a person cannot marry two sisters, so if he marries the first sister, the second sister becomes haram. How can he marry the second sister? If he divorces the first one, or she dies, right? Here, he can only, the second sister becomes permissible for him, as the author rahimahullah said, حتى تحرم الموطوءة. When the first one that he slept with becomes haram. How she becomes haram for him to sleep with? بتزويج. That's the first thing. So the slave woman that the first one he slept with, the first sister, the second, her sister becomes haram unless the first one he decides, you know what? He has another slave man, so he marries them together. So if he marries them together, she becomes haram for him to touch, because now she's a wife of another man. Okay, so if he marries her to another man, then she becomes haram for him to touch, even if she stays his slave. If she stays his slave and he sees there is kindness between this slave woman and that slave man he owns, he can marry them together, and he's the wali. Alright? Once he marries them, then she becomes haram. If she becomes haram for him, that is the one he used to sleep with, now her sister becomes permissible. Okay? Now her sister becomes permissible for him. أو إخراج عن ملك. Or the one he used to sleep with, A, he let her go free. He says, you've been good to me, you've been nice, this and that, you're free for the sake of Allah. So if she's free now, he doesn't have the right to sleep with her unless he marries her. Now she's like any free woman. So if he just frees her, she's done with him, he doesn't have the right. Then her sister, if he still owns her sister, he has the right now for her sister. Also, another situation he did not mention, if he sells her. If he sells her to another man, then she's not his slave anymore, and he has no right to sleep with him, or for him to sleep with him. And also he said, وَيَعْلَمُ أَنَّهَا غَيْرَ حَامِلٍ. When he sells her, or he let her go free, okay, he said, the author, he said, he cannot enjoy her sister until he makes sure that she's not pregnant. Why is that? Yes, because if she was pregnant, then she will be in her iddah. When is the iddah of a pregnant woman ends? Huh? La. When she gives birth. The iddah of a pregnant woman is when she gives birth. So what happens, as we said before, for example, if he has 4 wives and he wants to marry a 5th one, so he has to divorce the 4th. He cannot go ahead and marry the 5th until the iddah of the 4th is over. Here the same situation, but we know slave women has nothing to do with numbers. You can have 1,000. So why we have to wait? Why we have to wait for her iddah?
Because the baby arrived in the womb.
Because we're not talking about 4 here. We're talking about sisters. We're talking about sisters. So that he cannot marry another sister, or he cannot have intercourse with her sister until her iddah is over. Got it? So if she was clean, if she was pregnant, then until he has to make sure she's not pregnant and she won't have iddah. But if she's pregnant, then he has to wait until she gives birth to be able to enjoy her sister. Because this way she's still not, and they're still not together, if we could say. All right. يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم now let's say someone with this A, her master slept with her and then he sold her. Can the new owner, and then she was pregnant, can the new owner sleep with her?
No.
If a woman is pregnant from previous marriage or previous milk yamin, then the new owner cannot sleep with her because she's considered to be in her iddah. Okay? And the Prophet ﷺ said, لَقَدْ هَمَمْتُ أَنْ أَلْعَنَهُ لَعْنَةً تَدْخُلُ مَعَهُ فِي قَبْرِهِ. Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about a new master who sleeps with a new slave that's pregnant, Prophet ﷺ said, I was about to curse him, a curse that will enter with him into his grave. So it's a serious matter, because the issue is mixing 2 men's water together, and that is where the zina and the haram and the confusion and all these issues arise, and that is the mixing of lineages and mixing of blood. That is something that Islam is so concerned about. So that is the point. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فلا يسقي ماءه زرع غيره. Whoever believes in Allah and the day or the last day, then he should not يسقي ماءه زرع غيره, he should not sleep with a woman who has been or who has slept with a man and she's still in her iddah, or who has slept with a man and she's pregnant from him. Then it's a major sin for you to sleep with her. Even if you cannot marry her, because her iddah until she gives birth. Clear? Alright. يقول المؤلف فإذا وطأ الثانية. Now we're done with A. So now everything, all the conditions are met. A got married, she's not pregnant, alright? Or A, he sold her and she's not pregnant. So now he has the right to sleep with her sister. So now if he sleeps with the sister, فإذا وطأ الثانية B, فإن وطأ الثانية ثم عادت الأولى. Now he sleeps with the second one, and suddenly the one that he married, she was still his slave, but he married her to another slave of his. She got divorced. Or he sold her and then he bought her back. So what happens now? If he had slept already with her sister, then what happened now? Who's haram? The one he originally slept with. So exactly the same scenario now goes again. The same scenario we gave in the first example, now it goes on. Alright? Just very clear. So now he cannot sleep with A until B is married, or he sells her, okay? Or she dies, or whatever. يقول المؤلف وعمة الأمة وخالتها في هذا كأختها. So here we gave the example of 2 sisters, but the same thing applies if one of them is sister and if a girl and her aunt. The same story applies. So if he owns two slave women, one is a girl and her aunt, then he cannot sleep with both of them at the same time. Alright? Aunt from father's side or mother's side. يقول المؤلف فصل في موانع نكاح الإماء. So that is a section that is done with, but we had to mention it as we go with the book. يقول المؤلف فصل في موانع. So the bottom line is what applies to the free women when it comes to combining or being married to two sisters is haram, or a woman and her aunt is haram, applies to the slave women. But with the slave women you don't need عقد النكاح. So what's haram? So it's okay to own a woman and her sister or a woman and her aunt, but it's haram to have a nikah, يعني to have intercourse. Alright? Clear. In the other one, in the free women, it's haram to have intercourse as well as عقد in the first place, the contract. Okay. Now يقول المؤلف فصل في موانع نكاح الإماء. It's a section in regarding what forbids, what forbids to marry or to have intercourse, as we will see exactly what that means, because it can mean either way. Of الإماء. الإماء can be women in general and can be the slave women. Okay? And here, since he's talking about that section, that is what he means. So he said فصل في موانع نكاح الإماء وليس للمسلم وإن كان عبدا نكاح أمة كافرة ولحر نكاح أمة مسلمة إلا ألا يجد طول حرة ولا ثمن أمة ويخاف العنت وله نكاح أربع إذا كان الشرطان فيه قائمين. So now here he is distinguishing between أمة كافرة and أمة مسلمة. That's why he's saying وإن كان عبد وليس للمسلم وإن كان عبدا نكاح أمة كافرة. Okay, it's not permissible to have intercourse with a slave woman, if we're going to take the word أمة as slave woman, if she's كافرة, يعني she's not Muslim. And the slave women can be Muslim, slave women can be Christian, slave women can be Buddhist, slave women can be anything, atheist, pagan, anything. So here his opinion and the opinion of Al-Hanabila, that if you have a slave woman who's not Muslim or Muslima, then you're not allowed to have intercourse with her. That is their opinion. So the first issue comes from this statement, ليس لمسلم وإن كان عبدا نكاح أمة كافرة. يعني since he brought abdan in this picture, he's talking now about marriage. So he's saying it's not permissible to marry a slave woman or a woman who's kafir, and we know that. Okay, a Muslim is not allowed to marry a kafir, a disbeliever. We know the exception of Ahl Kitab, the women of the Jews and the Christians. That is the exception. Now, so some said it's not permissible to marry a non-Muslim. ولا أمة مؤمنة خير من مشركة ولو أعجبتكم. Some of them said she has to be Muslim, and the other opinion said she has to be Muslim or from the women of the people of the book, according to the ayah in Al-Ma'idah. The second, ولا لحر نكاح أمة. Okay, الحر, can he enjoy, if he has a slave woman who's not Muslim, can he enjoy her? Can he sleep with her? If he has a slave woman who's not Muslim, who's not Christian or Jew, the right thing is yes. Okay, the right thing is yes, as long as she's milk yamin, that's it. When it comes to the women of the people of the book, it has to do with marriage. It has to do with marriage. قال الله تعالى ولا تنكحوا المشركات حتى يؤمن ولا أمة مؤمنة خير من مشرك ولو أعجبتكم ولا تنكحوا المشركين حتى يؤمنوا ولعبد مؤمن خير من مشرك ولو أعجبكم أولئك يدعون إلى النار والله يدعو إلى الجنة والمغفرة بإذنه ويبين آياته للناس لعلهم يتذكرون. So here in this ayah someone will say, Amma here is a slave woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and do not sleep with the mushrikat until they become believers. And a slave believing woman is better than a slave mushrik. But يعني this opinion فيها نظر. يعني this word ama only means slave woman is questionable, and the reason for that, ama can be called on a woman can be called ama whether she's free or not. Okay, whether she's free or not can be called ama. That's why the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, Allahumma inni abduka wa ibnu abdika wa ibnu amatik. Oh Allah, I'm your son, I'm your slave, and the son of your slave, and the son of your slave, yani woman. But his mother was free. Amina was free woman. So, Allahu A'lam, the right opinion, it's permissible for the man to enjoy his slave woman, whether she's Muslim or she's not, whether she's Kitabiyya or not. That is with the slave woman. But that is with a slave woman, to enjoy her. But with the contract of marriage with a free woman, as we all know, what's only permissible is a Muslim woman and a Jewish woman or a Christian woman. And even the Jewish woman and the Christian woman, the ulama have talked about that, and Allah made it permissible, but this is a time, Allahu A'lam, it's better, and it might be the obligation to stay away from it. Okay? Stay away from it. Because the situation and the lifestyle and the environment around gives this woman the full rights. If you marry one of them and you lose control, you decide to divorce and there are kids involved, they're gone, they're lost. Or even if there is no divorce, because of the law and the way they deal with issues, she can do whatever she wants in your house. And that is something that needs to be understood, that if you marry a Christian woman, that doesn't mean, if Allah said it's permissible, that doesn't mean she has the right to do whatever she wants. And that doesn't mean she has the right to do whatever she wants in her house or outside, the way she does it as non-Muslim, that you're a Muslim man at the end. So a lot of the issues or a lot of the things they do not suit a Muslim man and a Muslim lifestyle. Okay, so very important for the brothers who decide to take the step is to be so aware and so understanding that, and they need to make her understand that there is Islamic code, and yes, she needs to live according to that. That's it. The ulama have even discussed the issue of her going to a church, if the husband has the right to prevent her, and he does. So now you hear a Muslim brother who is married to a Christian woman, and as if nothing changed in her life. She still does exactly what she wishes and the way she used to do it before marriage. And that is, if she accepts that, a Muslim man should not, with his honor, with his deen, with his jealousy, should not be able to accept that. Just don't understand how can he. So it's very important to be aware of that. It's not lakum dinukum waliya din. The issue with marrying a Christian woman doesn't mean you have your religion and I have my religion. You do whatever you want and I do what. No, it doesn't work like that. She's going to do whatever she wants. How are you going to raise your kids? With pork in your fridge and alcohol and liquor in your house? So it's very important and Christmas every year. So it's very important you set the rules from the beginning, and the best thing is to avoid that. Period. قال ولا لحر نكاح أمة مسلمة إلا ألا يجد ثوبا. So now someone Muslim, he's a free man, and he wants to get married. He wants to be he wants to get married, but he can't afford it. He can marry a slave woman, a Muslim slave woman, but with conditions. He can marry a slave woman, she'll continue to be slave with conditions. And we mentioned those. First condition, he cannot afford the mahr of a free woman.
He cannot control his desire.
He cannot control al-anat. He cannot, he's afraid of al-anat. He gets afraid of zina. And also another condition falls under the first one. Some of the ulama make them three separate conditions, and some of the ulama combine them. He cannot buy a slave woman. Alright? So if a Muslim man, free man, is afraid of zina, cannot afford the mahr of a free woman, and cannot buy a slave woman to protect himself from zina, then he become permitted, he has the green light to marry a slave woman. Alright? That is what he's saying here. وَلَا لِحُرٍ نِكَاحُ أَمَةٍ مُسْلِمَةٍ إِلَّا أَلَّا يَجِدَ طَوْلًا. طَوْلًا cannot afford a free woman mahr, or cannot afford to buy a slave woman. يقول المؤلف وله نكاح أربع إذا كان الشرطان فيه قائمين. He said, and he has the right to marry four. For what? For believing slave women, as long as the conditions, the two conditions we mentioned, or the three, apply. But if someone will say, how is for example, the second condition is standing and applying if afraid to commit zina? Now he already has a wife, the first slave woman, he has a wife now. So is he still afraid of falling in zina? Maybe he still cannot afford a free woman and cannot buy a slave woman, but is the condition that he's still afraid of falling in zina standing? Is it possible? Well, it is possible, because it might be his desires beyond control and one woman cannot satisfy him. And remember, this woman has a period, has a week of the month or maybe more that he cannot help him to fulfill his desires the way he wants. So that's where the ulama said he is permitted the four, but it's four marriages as we all understand, as the conditions still stand.
So for 4 weeks, yeah?
Well, that helps. But usually after a while their periods will come together, will coincide.
Then he's in trouble.
Alright? So these are the two sections just to mention as we go according to the book. Now we start with Bab al-Rida. Still have some time, so we can start that inshallah. قال المصنف رحمه الله باب الرضاع. حكم الرضاع حكم النسب في التحريم والمحرمية، فمتى أرضعت المرأة طفلا صار ابنا لها، وللرجل الذي ثاب اللبن بوطئه فيحرم عليه كل من يحرم على ابنهما من النسب، وإن أرضعت طفلة صارت بنتا له تحرم على كل من تحرم عليه ابنتهما من النسب، لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يحرم من الرضاع ما يحرم من النسب، والرضاع المحرم ما دخل الحلق من اللبن سواء دخل بارتضاع من الثدي أو وجور أو صعوط محضا كان مشوبا إذا لم يستهل. that we'll talk about that. يقول المؤلف باب الرضاع. Now we're talking about the chapter of breastfeeding, a section or a chapter of breastfeeding. الرضاع في اللغة مص اللبن من الثدي أو شربه. When we talk about breastfeeding, in the language, in the Arabic language, breastfeeding or رضاع, suckling is to suckle or to suck the milk directly from the breast or from a cup. Okay, from a cup, and we'll talk about that because some of the ulama said it's only from the thadi. Because drinking milk, even if it was, if the woman puts her milk in a cup and someone drinks it, that's not considered breastfeeding, that's not considered suckling. Okay, so that's where the ulama will have different opinion. وأما في اصطلاح الفقهاء, according to the fuqaha, that's what matters. فهو مص أو شرب طفل دون الحولين لبنا من امرأة تاب عن حمل أو نحو. Usually the usuliyun, when they give a definition, they just give you the meaning. They don't give you the conditions. But you can see in this definition there are conditions. حولين وثابة and وطئ and all that. So we'll talk about that. Alright. So عند الحنابلة, now here we said Ibn Qudamah Hanbali. So according to this definition we're going to take it and then we're going to see what the majority of the ulama said. عند الحنابلة يقول مص الثدي أو شرب. So first he's telling you to be, for this breastfeeding to be applicable, يعني to satisfy the idea of breastfeeding that makes someone haram, makes someone the son of the woman who gave him milk. Okay, that conditions have to be met. So first they say this baby has to suckle or has to drink the milk of this woman. Okay, of this woman. That's why they said, he said والرضاع المحرم ما دخل الحلق من اللبن سواء دخل بارتضاع من الثدي. So first it has to be a woman. Because they're saying, so if two kids suckle from a goat, they're not going to be brothers. Alright? So that's why they're so critical with the definition. And you will not believe it when I tell you some people came out to say that. Okay? Since they drank from the same goat, they're brothers. It's rida'a, they suckle. Alright? So it's very important. It's a woman, a human being. Then he said either عن طريق المص أو طريق الشرب, either suckling or drinking, يعني in a cup. The woman squeezed the milk into a cup and this baby drank it in a bottle or whatever. يقول المؤلف لبنا من امرأة, the milk from a woman, as I already said. وثاب عن حمل. طيب, now there's an issue here. ثاب عن حمل, يعني he's saying this milk that this woman has in her breast is a result of pregnancy. يعني she got pregnant, and the result was this milk. Because as you know, with the hormonal changes, when woman pregnant, she starts filling up, preparing for the baby to feed him. When a woman is not pregnant, there is no milk, it dries out. So they're saying, the Hanabila, they're saying this milk that this baby is suckling or drinking has to be a result of pregnancy. So it's not like any other milk, okay? And you know today there are changes in hormones and all that. A woman can have milk without pregnancy. So what they're saying is all that is excluded. Or for example, a grandmother who's taking care of her grandchildren and there's a baby and the mother is busy or sick or whatever, she cannot breastfeed, so the grandmother will just put this baby on her nipple and somehow milk might start producing. So they're saying all that is excluded. The milk that we're talking about that will make rida and apply the rulings and the tahrim and the mahramiyya and all that has to do with milk that was produced as a result of a baby. Okay? As a result of pregnancy. Alright. Some said this milk has to be from pregnancy. Some said any milk, as long as it's coming from the breast, any milk, whether this or that. So you have the two different opinions, but Hanabila, is it has to be a result of pregnancy. يقول المؤلف حكم الرضاع حكم النسب في التحريم والمحرمية. طيب حكم الرضاع حكم النسب يعني the rules apply to blood relations apply to breast relationship through breastfeeding in two categories. In two categories. He said تحريم والمحرمية. تحريم يعني تحريم النكاح. ها؟ يعني تحريم النكاح يعني marriage prohibition. So because of breastfeeding, some marriages become haram, right? So that is one section. And we talked about that, but I repeat it tonight, inshallah. So that's one section, tahrim. يعني some marriages become haram. Now before this baby breastfed from this woman, who's not his mother of course, before he breastfed from her, he was still able to marry, let's say, her daughters. But now because he breastfed from her, he can't. So that is tahrim. Al-mahramiyya has to do with becoming a mahram. Becoming a mahram. And the breastfeeding kid because of the breastfeeding becomes mahram for certain people because of the breastfeeding. So we have two categories are the results of breastfeeding. Tahrim, which has to do with nikah or marriage becomes prohibited, and second, gives this person the ability to become a mahram or enjoy more mahrams. The woman who's breastfeeding or her kids or the baby. Clear? So those are the two categories. So when we say tahrim, it has to do with marriage. When we say mahramiyya, it has to do with maharim. So, طيب, these are the two major rulings. Who can give me other rulings that do not apply? So those are the two categories that breastfeeding will change. But there are other rules that breastfeeding, whether breastfed or not, it does not change anything. Everything stays the same. The baby who got breastfed, the husband of the woman who gave him the milk becomes what?
The husband,
his father. Right? Now, as his father, is he entitled for inheritance? This breastfed baby, is he entitled for inheritance from his breastfed father? Breastfeeding father? Or father through breastfeeding? He's not. So when it comes to inheritance, breastfeeding does not change anything. Okay? Now let's say this breastfed baby is a girl or a boy. And then they grow up, they have a father through breastfeeding. They grow up poor. Usually the father is responsible about taking care of his kids if they're poor. Now this father who's through breastfeeding is a father. Is he required to take care of this poor baby or poor son or daughter through breastfeeding? He's not. Alright? So the only two things that apply to this issue of breastfeeding is nikah and maharim. That's it. Everything else don't change. Inheritance, he's not entitled. The breastfed baby is not entitled. Even if he's a son, and even if he's a daughter, even she's a daughter, even if he's a grandson, even if he's a brother, he's not entitled, or she. And he can act as a mahram for many new people. Alright? So very important to understand. Everything else, inheritance, sponsorship, support, it's not applicable. Okay. طيب, when we say mahram or mahramiyya, we said tahrim has to do with marriage. Mahramiyya has to do with being mahram. What does that entail, being a mahram?
You're married to the person.
No, that's the first. Yeah, that's the one you chose. That's the definition, but that has to do with tahrim, with the first section. But when we say someone is mahram, يعني
Someone Egyptian, a woman
The woman doesn't have to cover in front of him. He can travel with her. They can be alone, khalwa. Alright? He can be her mahram in hajj, in traveling, all that. So that's what we mean by mahrami. يقول حكم النسب. And this is the opinion of the 4 imams and the 4 schools. That's what applying because of blood applies because of breastfeeding in those issues that we had mentioned. فعليه لا يجوز للبنت المرضعة أن تنكح أبوها من الرضاعة. The baby through breastfeeding, a girl through breastfeeding cannot marry her father through breastfeeding. Obviously, she cannot marry her brother through breastfeeding. She cannot marry her grandfathers through breastfeeding as high as they can go. Great father, great grandfather, and she cannot marry furu' of her father through breastfeeding. She cannot marry any of the kids or grandkids or great grandkids of her father through breastfeeding. Remember this rule? And she cannot marry hawashi of her father through breastfeeding. Yani his uncles, his brothers, she cannot marry. Remember? We took the rule? Alright. And apply to the boy. And vice versa with that furu' of that breastfeeding. Just to go back to the example I gave, and I think last week, just as a review, we said when it comes to breastfeeding, there are 3 groups involved, or 3 parties. One is al-murtadi', and that is the baby who's getting the milk. Then there's al-murdi' or murdi'a, and that is the woman who's giving the milk, her milk. And then there is her husband, صاحب اللبن, her husband. So you have a woman and her husband and a baby. The baby breastfeed from this woman. So who becomes haram because of this relationship? We said every person has 3 relatives, 3 kind of relatives: usul, furu' and hawash. Usul, yani where he comes from, his fathers, his grandfathers, and on. Furu', who comes out of him? His sons, his grandsons, his great-grandsons. Hawashi, everyone else, his brothers, his uncles, his cousins, all that. Right. But mainly his brothers and uncles. We don't want to get involved with cousins, because cousins don't change anyway. When it comes to breastfeeding, it affects, for the husband and the wife, it affects everyone. The soul, the furu' and al-hawash. When it comes to the baby who breastfed, it only affects his furu', his offspring, his kids and their kids. For example, you have Fatima and her husband Ibrahim, and they breastfed a baby. It's not their son, but they breastfed him. They breastfed Ahmed. Now, Ahmed grows up to get married, he has kids, and so on and on and on. Now, can Ahmed marry the uncle of Ibrahim? No. Why? Exactly. Because the uncle of Ibrahim, Hawashi, we said Hawashi are effective. Can Ahmed, who got breastfed, marry the daughter of Ibrahim? No.
His sister.
Furu' of Ibrahim. That's his sister. Can Ahmed marry the niece of Ibrahim?
Yes.
Yeah?
Now they all get infected.
Infected. Affected. We don't want infection here, inshallah. I don't have prescriptions. No. Why? The niece of Ibrahim is who? His niece is who?
The daughter of his brother or the daughter of his...
Exactly. So what is she related to Ahmed? La. His cousin. You can't marry your cousin, even if there's no breastfeeding involved. But can he marry the niece? Huh? The niece of the son of Ibrahim?
No,
No.
Why?
because that would be his niece.
He will be the uncle.
That would be his
Exactly. But what is the niece to Ibrahim? فرع or أصل or حاشي? Ibrahim the father. فرع. One of his lineage, offspring. Because she's the daughter of his son. We said you have the son, their kids, and their kids, and their kids. Got it? Clear? So Ahmed cannot marry any of those from the father and mother side. But can the uncle of Ibrahim marry Ahmed's sister? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes. Can Ibrahim marries Ahmed's daughter? No. Can Ibrahim marries, or Ibrahim brother, can he marries Ahmed's mother? صحيح? Clear? When it comes to Ahmed's family, you're only concerned about his offspring, his kids. They cannot marry from father and mother through breastfeeding. Their relatives cannot marry, the ones we mentioned, cannot marry Ahmed's offspring. Ahmed's kids and their kids and their kids. That's it. But his mother and his aunts and his cousins, that will not be affected. Even his grandmother. Even Ahmed's, Ibrahim, who's Ahmed's father through breastfeeding, can marry his son's grandmother. Can he? She's asl. Usul are not affected. Clear? That's the qaida. Alright. Alright. هل الرضاع ينشر الحرمة في المصاهرة؟ Now we talked about النسب. إيش يعني النسب؟ يعني the kids and يعني the blood relation. So we gave you the examples of blood relationship. So now if I tell you, for example, Ahmed, who was Ahmed? The baby who got breastfed. Ahmed gets married to, he breastfeed from Fatima. Then he grows up. Ahmed grows up, young man, strong, successful, gets married. He marries Zainab. Alright? He divorces Zainab. Can Zainab, now forget about breastfeeding for a second. Can Ahmed's biological father marry Zainab after Ahmed has divorced her? You cannot. طيب شو الدليل? Okay, his father, but he divorced her. That's not dalil.
It's not like the heat. Not.
No, forget about breastfeeding. Has nothing to do. Someone's son gets married, a woman, he divorces her, doesn't work out. Can his father marry her?
Yes,
He can? Aye. Who says he can't? يعني your daughter-in-law, your son got tired of her, he divorced her. Can you marry her? طب الآية says what? ها؟ عندك آية vice versa. طيب if my father married a woman and he divorced her, can I marry her? Yeah? ولا تنكحوا ما نكح آباءكم. This is clear. يعني do not marry the ones the woman that your father is married. طيب, the vice versa, what is the dalil? Remember the ayah, everyone needs to memorize this ayah. حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم وبناتكم. Part of it is وأزواج أبنائكم الذين من أصلابكم. And the wives of your sons, يعني your blood, your biological sons. Their wives are haram for you. Of course, that has nothing to do with them while they're married, because we understand a woman cannot marry more than one man. But that is after divorce takes place. Allah says in this ayah, you cannot marry them again. You as a father who was a father-in-law cannot marry your daughter-in-law after she gets divorced from your son. Clear? So now we have no problem. We understand that. Right. Now we go back to the example of breastfeeding. Can Ibrahim marry Ahmed's divorcee? Because we said the hadith, يحرم من الرضاع ما يحرم من النسب. What's haram from blood, haram through what's haram because of blood, haram because of breastfeeding. But now, this, when you marry a woman, it's not called nasab. It's not called, your relationship with her has nothing to do with blood. You created this relationship. This is called through musahara. Okay? Musahara, يعني through, in other words, because you married her. So this, now she becomes your wife. So she's related to you because of a relationship you created. That's musahara. So now, we already understand with the blood, we said al-hawash, al-usul, al-furu'. Now what's about al-musahara? I go back with the example. Ahmed married Zainab, then he divorced her. Can his father, through breastfeeding, marry her?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, it's not blood related.
We said ما يحرم من الرضاعة ما يحرم من النسب يحرم من
ما يحرم من الرضاعة يحرم من النسب. أيوه.
So that was the wife of his son through breastfeeding.
صحيح. So the majority, so what are you saying? He cannot? The majority, or all the ulama, يعني the majority of the ulama, they said he cannot marry her. So al-musahara also makes it haram. So what's haram because of blood is also haram because of breastfeeding. Regarding to breastfeeding, what's haram because of nasab and blood is also haram because of marriage, يعني musahar. يعني in other words, this woman, this ex-wife of the son through breastfeeding becomes haram for the father through breastfeeding. They're just the same as if it wasn't through that. Clear? One of the ulama, or some of the ulama, have different opinion. They said no, because the ayah says وَحَلَائِلُ. Because when we talk about al-musahara, we're mainly talking about a wife. Someone who got married to a woman, or a woman who got married to, because musahara يعني marriage, has to do with marriage. So some of the ulama said no, he can. Ibrahim can still marry Zainab, who's ex-wife of Ahmed. He's only his son through breastfeeding, it's not through blood. And Allah says in the ayah, and the wives of your sons through blood. So they're saying the fact that Allah specifies when He said through blood, that excludes through musahara and through marriage. Got it? Huh? So the bottom line is, the correct opinion, just the fact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention that, يعني when Allah said أبناؤكم الذين من أصلابكم, هذا يعني the majority of the time that is the case. It's your wife, the wives of your kids from your blood, because the kids through breastfeeding are very few. So the ulama, the majority who said no, that this ayah does not, يعني when Allah said from your blood or your kids through blood, doesn't exclude everyone else, because Allah mentioned that as general, this is the general fact that most kids are through blood. That does not exclude the kids through breastfeeding. So the bottom line, not to confuse you, the bottom line is that wallahu a'lam is what's haram through breastfeeding, musahara, or also through marriage. يعني musahara, the example I gave you, also is haram because of breastfeeding. So Ibrahim cannot marry the ex-wife of Ahmed. Okay, that is the opinion of the majority, and that is that safe. So what does that mean? That means Ibrahim is mahram for Zaynab while she's married to Ahmed, and after she divorced from Ahmed. For example, my daughter marries someone and she's divorced, la qaddar Allah. This person that she married, my wife is his mother-in-law, right? After he divorced, when a woman is mother-in-law, you can shake her hands, you can kiss her, you can hug her when you see her. She doesn't have to cover in front of you. Your mother-in-law. After he divorced my daughter, my wife is still mahram, or he's still mahram for my wife. What happened before can continue to happen, because my wife is haram for him forever. Clear? My mother-in-law, the same thing. Now my mother-in-law, I'm married to her daughter. I can go and travel with her alone. I can sit with her alone. We can go out together, yani Dubai stuff, whatever. I can be alone with her. I can shake her hand. I can kiss her. I kiss her, yani hi. I can hug her. There is nothing wrong with that. If I divorce her daughter, I can continue to do that, because she is haram for me ever. Clear? Also my father, the same thing with my wife. Her father-in-law, and he will be her father-in-law even if I divorce her. He can take her to Hajj, for example. Clear? Alright. Why?
In case of the father, because she cannot marry him.
Father or the daughter or the mother. Because once you do the contract with the daughter, her mother becomes haram for you. Ever. Ever. The same thing with the father. Alright? That's why. Now, someone will say, you know what? I have a problem with that. Okay. What's your problem? My son-in-law, the reason he divorced, or my daughter wanted to leave him, is because, excuse my language, he's a crook. He's a bad guy. He's not trustworthy. Then if this is the case, then I will not allow him to mingle with my wife or his mother-in-law. So you have to measure, is he trustworthy or he's not? If I'm gonna let him with my wife and start, for example, like this, hitting on my wife, because he's not trustworthy, even though she's his mother, and he doesn't have any regard to God's laws, and he doesn't care that this woman is haram for him and she's like his mother, so of course I will not allow. So but you take the general rules, and you apply. But there are exceptions when you see the situation like that. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. Just an issue is, should we encourage breastfeeding? Breastfeeding to strangers. Is that something good? Is that something recommended? First of all, it should be limited. Okay? It should be limited and should be controlled. Second of all, when it happens, it should happen out of al-ihsan. Yani you're doing a favor. So it should not be yani the habit. Yani 3 women who just had 3 yani new babies, they get together and they start yani having a draw. Who's gonna breastfeed my son? And they start. No, that is not the intent behind it. The intent behind it, most of the time, is necessity. A woman who just gave birth and she's in a dangerous condition after giving birth, she's in critical care. Her sister will come and she'll breastfeed her nephew or her niece as a favor. Okay? But to make it yani, unrestricted and everyone is breastfeeding everyone else and everyone, the whole town, brothers and sisters, because it leads to a lot of problems. First, it leads to mixing of blood. Blood meaning yani, wrong marriages. How many people, and I'm not exaggerating, and usually happens, where they get married, the guy and the girl, and they have kids, and after that they realize they're brothers and sisters through breastfeeding. So they have to divorce. Can they come together and be alone with each other? Of course they can. They're brothers and sisters. Alright? But the fact is, we don't want that. We don't want this yani, to lead to that. Okay? So it should be yani, taken care of. It should be. And when it's necessary, out of it. That is the case. Yani the Prophet ﷺ, when he wanted Aisha radiallahu anha, and he found a man there, so he ﷺ changed his face. So he said, this is my uncle, and I will the point is, we don't want it to become widespread as the Prophet ﷺ. People, when their son grows up, they're going to propose to my daughter. I don't want to marry my daughter to them. So you snatch the baby and you put it to him. So he becomes the brother of your daughter. You cannot marry her anymore. Alright? Of course, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that, inshallah. We'll talk about that, okay? We'll talk about the condition. Alright? So, time is not enough. So, inshallah, يعني, that's what I want to talk about today. And next time we continue with باب الرضاع. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.